Okay, so here's how it works. Pretty straightforward stuff. The Department of Defense figures out how to do counterterrorism operations, how to fake identities, how to get spies in the field, how to influence public opinion, all these psychological operations, and then they use them against liberals. Lee Fong is with us, blogger extraordinaire, and one of the best investigative reporters, I think, frankly, practicing in America today. Lee, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tom, you're too kind. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Let's start out with the backstory on this, because all of our viewers and listeners may not be familiar with it. You, as a member of the Center for American Progress, are a victim of this, and you personally may well be a victim of this. Progressive talk radio hosts may be, who knows? We know some groups specifically. Tell us what happened.
Well, back in October, as a lot of groups were criticizing the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I know you were, I was reporting a lot on what they were doing, especially in terms of their foreign money fundraising. The Chamber of Commerce secretly went to a set of private defense security contractors and started developing a plan to go after their critics. They worked with cyber security and cyber warfare firms that specialize in going after jihadi and Iranian threats. But they actually asked these companies to develop a plan to spy, to sabotage, and actually use hacking software to go after. And then they listed a few of their targets: the SEIU, the Union, the Center for American Progress, where I work, some other activist groups on the left as well.
Now, what's so bizarre and ironic about this, Lee, is that under U.S. law, had it been the DOD or the CIA or the FBI that was doing this, at the very least without a warrant, it would be a felony. But when a private corporation decides to spy on us, it's not a felony. Do I have that right?
Well, no, I think what they did was a felony, but they just this happens under the radar. And
because of the techniques that they're using, or because of the fact that they're doing it?
Well, the fact that we don't really know the extent to what they were doing, and it's a problem that the people who are supposed to be enforcing the laws, the FBI, the DOD, the NSA, they work with them. They work with the same firms that are contracting with the chamber.
Right.
So I don't know how you can have effective law enforcement if law enforcement relies on criminal firms. So,
or at least firms behaving criminally. To what extent has this been stopped?
Well, when we reported this, we broke the story in February. I can only assume that after it was exposed, they dropped the contract. But who knows? We really don't know if they're still doing this, if the chamber just went to different firms to do this for them, or if they just never really stopped and they're actually conducting these malware spying operations right now. In any case, earlier this month, 16 members of Congress wrote a letter to different chairmen of relevant committees asking for an investigation. Already, the Republican-controlled Judiciary Committee refused to look at the matter, refused to investigate, so they wouldn't have anything to do with it. However, Hank Johnson, a Democrat in Georgia, brought this matter up last Wednesday at a Homeland Security briefing with Keith Alexander, the general who is the director of the NSA, and he basically demanded to know all the contract information in terms of what the NSA does with these firms that were involved in the chamber plan.
What exactly were these guys doing against the Center for American Progress and other progressive groups, and were they targeting any specific progressive politicians?
We don't know about politicians, but they had several plans. They created a set of proposals. One was a PowerPoint and another couple memos that basically outlined that they would create a number of fake identities online and have those identities communicate with people at unions or at different progressive groups to gain access, to gain relationships with people at these firms. But it was much broader than that. They also started spying and collecting data on where people lived, who their family were, where they go to church and their synagogue. They developed these malware devices where they would email someone a fake document, and when they opened the document, it would basically place a virus on the computer that would collect private information and send it back to the firm. One of the companies, Palantir, developed this software that allows the chamber or anyone else to monitor multiple sources at once. And another firm called Barrico and H.B. Gary Federal suggested creating multiple online identities that would then correspond to any other threat that they saw.
Sock puppets, essentially.
Sock puppets, yes.
Yeah.
And we've already seen that. We reported earlier that they're using these sock puppets to comment in the blog section of liberal blogs. They're basically scrubbing the profiles on Wikipedia to make their clients look more favorable. Coke Industries is doing this, not just the chamber. A lot of large corporations are up to this sort of thing.
So there's basically defensive operations, which is scrubbing the internet clean, and there's offensive operations, which is hacking into your computers and finding out about your family and girlfriend and everything else, that anything that they can find that might be used against you. We know the chamber was involved in both of these, had hired them to do both of these. Did the Koch brothers, were they, they're fairly high profile in all this, were they involved in any of this?
It's not clear. We don't really know the other clients of this firm. We only know right now that they count the NSA, the Defense Department, the FBI as clients, but we don't know anything about their corporate clients, and they could be extensive. There's a Wall Street Journal article about a year ago that actually reported that one of the firms involved in the scandal, Palantir, has worked with a number of different hedge fund and other Wall Street investment firms, but basically to just monitor financial data so they can make better investments. But who knows what else they're doing.
That's really interesting, because when you watch Client Number 9, the movie about the downfall of Elliot Spitzer, you get it that these guys got information through companies like this, presumably, from inside the government, and then used that information to bring down a politician. This is really quite extraordinary. Is there any outrage in Congress about this, Lee Fong?
Well, it's great that Congressman Hank Johnson has brought this up and has aggressively pressed this in subcommittee hearings, because overall, this letter has been sent now 3 weeks ago, and the only main response has been, no, we won't even look at it. We won't bring it up. We won't discuss it. It's reassuring that General Alexander has said he will comply, and that subcommittee chairman Matt Thornberry, a Republican, said that he's open to an investigation.
Right, but that's just going to give him a list of clients. I have another last question here. We have a little more in a minute, I think. Back when I was in SDS as a teenager at MSU, there was always this one guy. We always thought he was a little weird, who was out of maybe 70 or 80 of us who were in the regular attendees to the SDS group meetings, who was always yelling, kill the pigs and let's go burn down the SDS, the ROTC building. And I mean, this guy was like, gung-ho pro-violence. And 15, 20 years later, when one of us became a lawyer and sued the Michigan State Police, we discovered he was the infiltrator. Is there any evidence that these guys, in their efforts, are trying to play agent provocateur like that?
No, absolutely. One of their main strategies was a false flag attack of planting documents in liberal organizations. So that's something we had to absolutely look out for.
So they're doing the same thing. That's incredible. Lee Fong, thinkprogress.org. Check it out. Thanks, Lee.